Hello everyone, Kate here. I wanted to make this video for you today to talk through the winter dreaming worksheet, to share with you how I'm using this worksheet and give you some ideas for how you can put some of these ideas into practice for your winter. So this is the worksheet here. You may have seen it shared on social media or on my email list if that's where you downloaded it from. And I apologize, I think it's probably going to be backwards when I hold it up, so I won't do that again. So before I dive into how to use the worksheet, I want to talk to you a little bit about the kind of philosophy or ways of thinking behind this idea of syncing up our life's activities with the mood of the season, and also to credit a few of my teachers and mentors who I've worked with who are real champions of this work. By no means did I invent the idea of winter hibernation. In many ways, it's a remembering of ways in which humans used to live and ways in which animals and plants certainly live on this planet. So the mood of winter, as you've probably heard me talk about if you're watching this video, is really resonant with this idea of turning inwards, taking time to reflect, rest more, go a little slower. I've even used the word hibernation, which feels really quite radical or countercultural to the way in which many of us living in Western society, I myself being in Sydney, Australia, a busy city, not a whole lot really slows down in winter. We even have this huge festival of light and sound and ideas called Vivid, which is entirely a project of Tourism New South Wales to bring more people out and about in winter, because most of us really kind of want to hang at home and rest and maybe, I don't know, watch MasterChef. It's the prime time of television. It's peak moment for advertising because people, it's harder to get us out of the house in the evenings in winter. So this is kind of already built into the ways in which our bodies operate, and you maybe have some instincts to want to do less in winter. So I want to talk a little bit more practically about how you can actually start to create some space. And, if you can't completely slow or stop or take a sabbatical, I've known people who've taken weeks off of work during winter to rest more, both for health and as well as personal reasons. But also, if you're going to be doing your doings, to see if there's a way you can align your doings with the mood of winter. So what do I mean by that? I'll just shift now to talk a little bit about menstrual cycle awareness, because I think that's relevant as well. For women who are menstruating, the mood of winter is resonant with the mood of menstruation. So if you think about the way in which you feel when you're menstruating, it's also resonant with the time of day of midnight, so the dark hours when you're in deep sleep, dreaming time, hopefully, fingers crossed, if you're not one of those people like my husband who pulls all-nighters and totally disrupts their circadian rhythms. This is what the earth wants us to do at midnight in winter, in our bodies when we're menstruating, is to rest. And this is really important because summer's going to come. And if we don't rest enough in winter, summer's going to be pretty rocky. If we don't allow our garden to have some time to, re-nutrient itself, for the land to lay fallow, for, that compost to be mixed back through the soil and to have a chance for a new crop to be planted rather than just trying to harvest the same crop again and again year round, you're not going to have an as abundant summer as you otherwise could. So this is just a little bit of the thinking behind this, cycle life, as I call it, living in rhythm with the cycles. And so just to quickly mention a few of my teachers and mentors whose work I love, you may be interested in reaching out: Jane Hardwick-Collins of the School of Shamanic Womancraft, Alexandra Pope and Shani Hugo Wurlitzer of Red School, and Uma Dinsmore Tooley from Yoni Shakti and Womb Yoga. So these are some seminal women leaders who are really communicating the importance of cycle life. So winter dreaming. How might we go about aligning our doings of winter with the mood of the season? So if you've got this worksheet, you'll see it's broken down kind of into 4 sections. And these are by no means exhaustive. By no means do you need to do all of them, like all the work I share. These are just some suggestions. It shouldn't feel like a to-do list or like work, you know. I would hate for you to feel like you have to figure out something to do in the reflection and evaluation category just because it was here and you weren't feeling inspired by it. No, just do what is resonating with you and leave the rest. All right. So at the top of the page, winter is a potent time for turning inward, resting, reflecting, and evaluating. It's also a wonderful time for creating space for dreaming, visioning, and early stage research into new ideas or projects. So this is so it's both the kind of leaning back and restoring and resting, but then there's also that dreaming time. If you think about maybe what your body's doing at midnight, there's that kind of liminal phase where the mind is possibly in that REM stage. You're dreaming. The soil, if you think about a garden, is beginning to renutrient itself, and it's just that glimmer out of the shadows is beginning to emerge, a little shape of something that may then come to life in spring. So I want to honor that phase as well. We don't want to get too crazy into the doing, you know, that's for the high summer. But you do want to start to lean in a little to, what do I feel like might start to emerge, or where is my energy moving toward, and starting to do some kind of early stage visioning and dreaming as well as the rest. So the categories. First, I have hibernation and rest. So one way in which I'm doing this is having really early bedtimes. I mean, it's kind of the most obvious when we think of rest. I mean, for you, it might be taking afternoon naps, or it might be doing more meditating. That's a way in which you create rest, or kind of a pause for your mind. I really need 10 hours sleep a night, and so I'm honoring my body's needs. I even think I had 11 last night, and it feels so good. So, you know, with the sun setting at 5 o'clock, I'm going to town with getting extra hours of unconscious time. I'm also taking a little hibernation from social media, because if I do go to bed early, sometimes the tendency can be to want to just twiddle away on my phone, and, you know, I put music or podcasts on, but then sometimes I find myself scrolling around on social media. And often the last thing that imprints our mind before we go to sleep, it then influences our subconscious. So you just never know what you're going to get with social media. And so it's not a very conscious way to spend those final hours of the day for me. So I'm actually logging off from social media completely for a full lunar cycle. So have a think about the ways in which you can create a sense of hibernation or rest. It might be taking a pause on, you know, certain activities, whether it's socializing or any kind of outward focused ways that you have been traditionally spending your energy, or ways that you're drawn to spend your energy in other seasons, that you could then start to move your energy a bit more inward. The next section is reflection and evaluation. So for me, this piece is really about looking back over the last 12 months. And I guess for myself, my reflection is really focused on what has my business been doing over the last 12 months, reflecting and evaluating both, you know, in terms of doing some writing around what business activities felt really good and really aligned for me, and what didn't. So not only the feeling side, but then also looking at the numbers, looking at how did I make my money? How did I expect to make my money? What delivered and what didn't? So that as I come into my next cycle, I can be quite conscious about knowing what activities I'm doing that are income generating, and what activities are not income generating. Because if I'm doing activities that don't generate income, it's not really a business, it's a hobby, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with hobbies, but you know, it's my livelihood. So I want to make sure that I'm getting that energetic exchange really well aligned. For you, reflection and evaluation could look like, you know, maybe just feeling into what relationships have been really nourishing for you this year. What friendships emerged over the last 12 months and which ones kind of faded away. You might want to look at in your career, like what has felt really nourishing and well aligned, and or maybe in your relationship with your children or your partner. What were some of the highlights? What do you want to do again, or what activities could you repeat coming into the next year? So doing a bit of a reflection. Oh, and also, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, if you're in Australia like me, it's also tax time. So again, looking for me at my finances, personal finances, as well as my business. And I think this can be a bit of a gray area for a lot of people where we don't really want to look at our money. We don't, if it causes us anxiety, like I know it certainly does for me, I get nervous. And so when I'm getting anxious about money, I just kind of ignore it. And it's actually really powerful to start to open my eyes to where's the money coming in from, where's it going out to, and so I can actually have that clarity. And tax time is going to force me to do that. And the last 3 years, I've been terribly, terribly late with my tax. And so this year, I'm actually quite excited. I've got my income and expenses pretty much ready, and I'm booking an appointment with my accountant for early July, and we're just going to go for it, and it's going to be great. So that's the second section. So we're moving on to the third one here on the winter dreaming worksheet, which is dreaming and intuition. So this could look like a whole lot of different things. It could be the time that you spend when you're sleeping. Maybe you like the idea of keeping a dream journal, and maybe even practicing lucid dreaming, or just keeping a dream diary and starting to become conscious of what's going on in your subconscious, and maybe looking for clues or patterns, or maybe starting to decode your dreams. That could be a fun project for you. It could be daydreaming. It could just be kind of laying around, looking at the sky, looking at a candle, I don't know, having a bath, and just letting your mind wander. It's not very often that we create or that space is created for us to daydream when we have so many different inputs coming at us all the time, whether it's like, on a train station looking at ads, or whether it's you got your phone in your pocket so you're never bored and we're always fiddling away with something. Giving yourself permission to daydream and let your thoughts wander. Or another kind of dreaming you might do is some really kind of a little bit more structured dreaming, where you kind of get out pens and paper and do a bit of a brainstorm about maybe a project that's been sort of tickling away at you, sort of wanting to be birthed, and maybe you want to start to do a bit of dreaming around what it might actually look like for you to consciously tend that project into being, and maybe what little resources or people you might need to gather around you to really make that happen. But be warned, you don't want to get into the doing just yet. It's really a time to dream, to brainstorm, and just kind of let everything flow. And with respect to intuition, you might want to do some practice on developing your intuition. So in terms of the winter stage of a woman's menstrual cycle, I know from my personal experience that it's a really rich time to seek insight. Whenever I meditate or do shamanic drum journeys during this time, I feel like I've got superpowers, and I can access deeper levels of insight that I can't access at other parts of my cycle, maybe because of the hormones or just whatever's going on in my brain. I feel like that gateway between the conscious and unconscious, and my ability to access that vision and insight is, just the path opens up. So I'm personally wanting to spend a bit more time this winter practicing working with my intuition. So not only through meditation, but also through asking questions, and then really just feeling into the insight that comes, because it's one of those things that with practice you can really develop it, kind of like a muscle. So that's dreaming and intuition. Finally, the fourth category I've written down here is research and education. Now, if those words kind of, I don't know what sort of reaction you have to those words, but if in any way it starts to feel like work, just flick it to the side. If you get excited by the idea of doing some research, maybe into, I don't know, a summer holiday that you're starting to plan, or maybe you want to do a little bit of, maybe you've got an interest or a hobby you want to explore. Maybe you want to learn how to crochet or how to make herbal tinctures, or maybe there's a little home-based project where you could learn something new to do in the home and educate yourself on something that feels enjoyable. I'm not talking about signing up for your MBA. An example from this end, I mean, I'm a yoga teacher and a bit of a yoga geek, so I've been watching lectures from one of my teachers, Donna Farhi, who's an amazing woman, and I just do that lying in bed, and it feels so nourishing to me. I just love watching and listening, and it doesn't feel like work, even though yoga is my career choice. So research and education. You might like to make a little Pinterest board for kind of collecting things, or you might want to print some things out in hard copy. I know my family and I are planning a little summer something. I don't want to say too much yet, but we're my husband and I are starting to compile some research for something that's coming up in the summer. And I know that with taking my social media sabbatical and hibernating from that kind of outwardly focused way of spending my energy, I'm able to direct a bit more time towards this little family research project. I'm also going to make some photo albums and stuff, just go through the photos from the last, 6 years of having kids, and put the photos together and make up some albums and stuff, and the kind of things that would feel really nice to do after dinner at home when I'm not fiddling on social. So that's winter dreaming. I hope it inspires you for some well-aligned and nourishing winter activities. And I'd love to hear from you. If you've just watched this video, maybe you can leave a comment on the blog, or maybe send me an email. I'd be really interested to know some of the things that you guys are doing. Some of you've emailed me already, and I love hearing from you, and especially knowing that I'm about to take this social media break. I'd love to keep up the conversations over email if you ever feel inspired to reply. I am going to be sharing content with you guys over email still. I've got some podcasts and videos that I'll be making over the winter. And what else? I'm doing some one-to-one mentoring, which I'm really enjoying at the moment. A few of you watching this maybe are already working with me, and that's been really fun. So it's conscious business mentoring for anyone who is maybe you're at the early stage of your business, or maybe you've got a project. Maybe it's not so much a business, or you're just kind of up to something and you want some support and guidance for how to craft your offering, how to identify the audience or community that it's for, and how to reach them. So essentially early stage business planning and marketing. And then the other kind of mentoring I'm doing is yoga mentoring. So it's a bit of an extension from the private yoga I've been doing here in my home studio in Waverton, which is where I'm sitting right now. But it brings the yoga online. So a chance for me to work with you if you're not in Sydney with some of the aspects of yoga that are not mat based. So some of the lifestyle practices, whether it's to support mental health or stress, or just to live in a way that feels more aligned. Maybe you want to reconnect with your spiritual self. Maybe you want to reconnect with practices or rituals that can sustain you as a conscious parent. Parenting in the early years gets really crazy, and it's really the ultimate yoga practice if we can enable it to be our teacher and not be at war with it, with the grind and the intensity of mothering in the early years. It can be such a beautiful teacher, and it can be such a heart opener, but we do need to build that inner resource along the way, otherwise we can find ourselves really drained. Mentoring. If you're interested, send me a message. I'm actually offering a free 10-minute discovery call so we can have a bit of a chat about your unique situation, and I can share with you how we would then go about working together one-to-one. And the prices are at a real introductory level. This is a bit of an experiment. 3 sessions, 60 minutes each, is 240 Australian dollars, which means particularly if you're in the UK or the US, it's really, really cheap. So, yeah, I look forward to hearing about what you've been up to as well. Do stay in touch with me over email. And yeah, that's it for now.